Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. This week we are dealing with races of the world. In this case, we're going to talk about the Ssrraazzaassians. Now, Ssrraazzaassians are a reptilian race, roughly 7.5 to 8.5 feet in height. They are extremely broad-shouldered, very dense, as in they come from a world that has a very high gravity, therefore their cell structure is a lot denser than humans. Now, for those of you that don't know me, in which there are a staggering number of people, and that's okay, but I am a regular guest the first Friday of every month on Spaced Out Ready in radio. We'll try that in English. On Spaced Out Radio on the internet. Now we've been on this particular show for coming on 5.5 years now. Okay, with very few separations, very few missed episodes or missed weeks, I think is a good way to put it. Anyway, back to the issue at hand. These Ssrraazzaassians are reptilian. Okay, they are carnivorous. They are cannibalistic, and they will eat carrion. Meaning, it doesn't matter what the meat, they will eat it. Okay, they have a very high level of honor amongst them. They are born understanding both respect and honor. It is just natural to them. Much like humans seem to be born with the idea of curiosity. Now, these Ssrraazzaassians are allies of humanity. They are one of about a dozen or so different reptilian races that I personally have dealt with. Okay, now to give you an idea of just exactly how strong these people are, they still have this idea of might. It's not so much might is right, but it is something to be revered. Okay, humans seem to revere people that have either good looks or big brains, right? The Ssrraazzaassians, they literally put a lot of their thought process into: are you stronger? Are you more combat? Do you have more combat prowess than anybody else? Now, let us understand their society is built in a very simple fashion. The entire social structure is built is run by a matriarchal setup. The females run the social side. They handle medical developments. They handle food storage and preservation. They handle the whole medical side, the social and educational side, on everything domestic. They're even in charge of designing, as in the engineering side, of construction. Now, the males, on the other hand, it's a complete patriarchal society, still military based, where defense and combat are concerned. Now, understand, to put the combat in place, in perspective, when you're dealing with their hand-to-hand weapons, which they definitely prefer. Okay, if you take an old Terran style mace, which is about 2.5 to 3 pounds of metal on the end of a club, okay, on the end of a stick. A Ssrraazzaassian mace is approximately the size of a medicine ball, but very high density metal, much higher density than what iron or lead is. Lead, obviously, but much higher density than what iron is or what steel is. Okay, but it's the size of a medicine ball. Basically, you're looking at a chunk of metal as big around as the average adult's chest. Okay, so I mean, we are dealing with people that are very combat capable. You don't want to go hand to hand with these guys, but at the same time, they are very gentle. Okay, they train literally for years before they are permitted to interact with humans, because they've got to be able to pick up and they've got to be able to handle touching a human without killing him. Okay, I literally have watched these people accidentally dislocate a person's shoulder just simply by placing their hand on it. Okay, and I will tell you, the look on a Ssrraazzaassian's face when it is surprised is absolutely hilarious. Okay, they have only 3 fingers, much like that, except for the fact that theirs have extremely long, solid talons on the end. Okay, they are scaled. Those talons are strong enough to rip through standard construction material on Earth. So you can picture what it'll do to a person. Okay, but they are trained to handle things so they can literally pick up a Terran chicken egg with their bare hands. Okay, without shattering it. And yet, I've seen them by simply trying to type on a Terran keyboard. I've watched them punch holes in the keyboard by accident. Needless to say, that makes the keyboard not work well. Okay, so when you're dealing with this, now I did not do a picture of my artwork. Is just pathetic in my eyes. So, the best I'm going to tell you is take a look at it and picture whatever you've seen in the way of renditions of it. One that gives you a good example, relatively, of the facial configuration is if you watch a show called Jupiter Ascending. Okay, there is a reptilian shown on that movie. Now that is actually a perfect rendition of a Tormenon, which is another race we will deal with later. However, the Ssrraazzaassians, since they are related to the Tormenon, when you go way back in history, and that's another issue for another topic, but that will give you an idea of what they actually look like, of what the facial configuration looks like. Okay, now that being said, I get asked a lot of times what ships these people use. And again, my artwork is not something that we can write nice things about. However, what we can tell you is very poorly done, but this is one of their ships. It is, as you can see, cylindrical in configuration, silver in color. You may have seen what they call cigar-shaped vessels in the air. Now, there's a couple of races that use these, that use similar configuration, but we will get to them later. The 2 bands that you see across the length of it, those are banks of windows. Okay, so we are dealing with a ship that is several floors. Okay, and understanding, of course, with the Ssrraazzaassians being 7.5 to 8.5 feet tall, these are not just 6-foot ceilings. Okay, you're looking in most cases at 15 to 20-foot ceilings, depending on what they're being used for. Okay, these ships you undoubtedly have seen. Well, you may not have. I mean, let's face it. The number of people that can actually say, I saw that ship, and just don't recognize it, is absolutely amazing. But this does not mean they don't exist. And for the people, there are people out there that will go, well, if I can't see it, I don't believe it. And that is absolutely, you're right. I mean, the reality is, I'm not here to convince anybody that what I'm telling you is right, or to prove it that it's wrong. That's up to you guys. For me, this is just a question of it's time that I simply accept the fact this is the way my life is. My life is much more along the lines of science fiction than anything else. And if you've ever listened to me on Spaced Out Radio or a few other shows that I've been on, a few other radios I've been on, or at a few of the events that I've gone and spoken at, then you'll understand part of that. I'm very upfront about the way I do it. I'm not able to convince anybody. I don't have physical proof. I don't have photographs. Okay, and I am no computer whiz. I mean, quite frankly, I'm more comfortable with an abacus and a piece of paper and a pencil than I am with anything else. But when it comes to these ships, okay, when we're taking a look at these ships, people will look at it and go, why don't they, why doesn't anybody ever see them land? Well, because they don't have to. They have quite literally matter relocators, which from your standpoint is more along the lines of a transporter. Okay, much like the original series of Star Trek and many of the science fiction movies that we watch. Okay, but when you're dealing with them, okay, the whole concept of how they work, of how these Ssrraazzaassians work, when we go back, okay, they are, and we'll deal with this with the other races as well, but the Ssrraazzaassians, if you go way back in history, their parent genealogy were the Drakes, or what most people know as Predraconians. Okay, at that time, they got separated years ago, like centuries back. Well, frankly, millennia back. They were separated at the same time as the Tormenon were. Okay, so essentially, the Tormenon and the Ssrraazzaassians have a mutual ancestor. Okay, this does not mean, by the way, that they get along. So, what brought the Ssrraazzaassians here in the first place? Well, yes, they had heard about Earth, but the thing that got their attention first was there's another reptilian race that we will get to in a future video called the Teklak that had found out about Earth and were on their way here. Now, the Ssrraazzaassians have been in an ongoing war for millennia with the Teklak. So when the Ssrraazzaassians heard that the Teklak were heading here, the Ssrraazzaassians said, "Nope, we're not waiting for go ahead. We're just coming here and going to intercept." Well, the Ssrraazzaassians were closer, so they got here first. They did make contact with some of the Terran people and set up a superstructure to help deal with the Teklak when they got here. Net result, the Teklak's approach to Earth was interrupted. Okay, so this is why the White Ssrraazzaassians are on Earth in a number of different locations. And no, before you ask, I'm not going to tell you where, for a lot of reasons. Not the least of which is you don't need to know. Okay, yeah, there's those of you that will go, yes, we do. Well, think of it this way. People, humans, have a problem with different people based on color, based on, genetic configuration, just minor little changes. Picture how much trouble you're going to have if you finally find yourself face to face, sort of, with an armored and armed 8-foot reptilian. Now, if you think you get edgy in crowds or with people you don't know, it gets really sketchy when the person you don't know, in the middle of a fight, will eat you. It's just one of those things. Doesn't necessarily go over well for people. Okay, we've got enough stress on this planet. But rest assured, to the best of my knowledge, there is not a single race, ancient race or off-worlder, that is intent on taking over Earth. Okay, which is probably a good thing when you think about it. Don't you like the size of my coffee cup? That's just a side note. Anyway, where it comes to the Ssrraazzaassian purpose of being here, it was literally inspired by the idea of stopping the Teklak from getting a foothold. They succeeded. Okay. After they got here, the consortium caught up, and there's been a whole pile of things that have happened there. I mean, you want politics that are bizarre? Try the Offworlders. Okay, I mean, if you think our politics are a little twisted, there's a set that's downright dangerous. But the Ssrraazzaassians will not trade in weaponry, in advanced technologies of that form at all. Okay, a lot of the reason, in all fairness, regarding the Ssrraazzaassian weaponry, there is no point in trading it with humans because humans can't handle it. Okay, I mean, humans on the whole cannot pick up their weapons. It's just physically not possible. Okay, so, I mean, there are exoskeletons that man has developed that enable man to pick up some of it, but it has nowhere near the dexterity necessary to get into a hand-to-hand combat with these people. Okay, but the Ssrraazzaassians, much as they are fearsome to look at and very militarily guarded, understand they grow their own armor, meaning the scales that they grow are literally better than the old-fashioned medieval armor that mankind builds. That not only does it not need repair because it simply heals, right, but it is extremely high density. The other thing with them, because of the plant they grow that they evolved on, they developed all the way along underneath the jawline here. They developed a set of very what is the word we're looking for? Very chromatic, very colorful array of scales down here that are totally controlled. They will simply, they light up, when we talk about them lighting up, they flood them with blood to make them brighter. Okay, in the thermal spectrum. Okay, that is how the Ssrraazzaassians communicate when they want to be quiet. Otherwise, it's a series of growls, hisses, and snarls. Needless to say, doesn't work well for most humans. But this color band developed because on their world, if you're outside and a sandstorm hits, well, sandstorms on Earth can absolutely blind people because of the high density glass-like shards and some of the other races on their homeworld. You get caught in a sandstorm, and the sand is so sharp that it will peel a human to the bone in a heartbeat. Okay, it will shred him completely. These guys' armor withstands that, but you can't hear a thing in that kind of a storm. So this thermal band here is how they communicate. Okay. But again, trying to replicate that for humans is going to be really complicated because you got to understand the culture and their entire array, not to mention their physiology, in order to get the linguistics right. Okay. So we are dealing with a very sophisticated, very highly advanced race. Obviously, if they're coming here from hundreds of thousands, if not millions of light years, and astrophysics is not my suit. Okay. But when you take a look at where they're coming from, okay, they are not poorly educated. They are a very gentle race, unless they're going to war, at which point there is no shortage of combat. Okay. They've got a very simple philosophy in war. War is messy, war is brutal. Make it quick, make it clean. And like clean as in you don't worry about rules of war. Rule of war is very simple for them. Kill or be killed. Okay. But they are here to, now that they've got here, they're striving to understand humans' curiosity and how it drives humans. And they're hoping that there is a way of teaching their race to be a little bit more adept at that side of it. Plus some other things that humans do have the ability to do. But there's a lot more information than we're actually sitting on. Okay, we did actually a shorter video of the Ssrraazzaassians yesterday. So what we're going to do is we're going to title this one Ssrraazzaassian Part 1. Okay. The original, I think that's the best one. Because we've got another one that we've got to do with these. Needless to say, where it comes to the Ssrraazzaassians, I happen to have a lot of experience with them. And frankly, I've got some friends up there. Okay, so I've got a little bit more information there, but all of the information I've got, or I'm in the process of getting all the information on paper. Okay, now, if you we're going to tie this off here. So, if you like the video, absolutely give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel so you can get the rest of the information. And certainly join us on Spaced Out Radio on the internet, spacedoutradio.com. Okay, you can look it up on, and do not ask me all of that side of it, but we are on like we said, the first Friday of every month from 9 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. At this point, anyway. We have been for the last 5 years. We've had to move it around a little, but that said, do subscribe to our channel. Okay, and if you have questions, absolutely, there's a list of different contact points below at the bottom of this video. Reach out to me on any one of them if there's a race you want to know about, if you've got questions about a given race or something that you don't necessarily, a race that you don't know, but you've got a basic idea. If you've got questions, absolutely drop me a line. I will do my best to get back to you as quickly as possible, or I'll get it into a video. Okay, depends on what the question is, but we will respond as quickly as we can. Okay, but until then, we're going to call this a day. We're going to say, until we talk again, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.